Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to dialogue directly with Russia on May 15. China and the United States have agreed to significantly reduce tariffs for 90 days after successful talks held on Sunday in the Swiss city of Geneva. And in Palestine, the Israeli occupation army committed a massacre early Monday morning after it bombed a school sheltering displaced families in Jabalia, northern Gaza. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin proposed to the Ukrainian government to resume direct negotiations without preconditions in the Turkish city of Istanbul. The Russian president detailed that it is necessary to resume the talks that were interrupted at the end of 2022. The Russian head of state also did not rule out that during these talks it would be possible to agree on a new real ceasefire that would be respected not only by Russia but also by Ukraine. The Russian president specified that he proposes to restart the talks without delay next May 15th in Istanbul, where they were held previously. For his part, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he agreed to dialogue directly with Russia. Although all signs point to the meeting being held, Ukraine has expressed its wish for Russia to accept the 30-day truce to begin on Monday, as proposed by several European leaders. Moscow rejected the proposal from the beginning, assuring that leaders of the European Union and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization will take advantage of it to rearm and strengthen the Ukrainian troops. And a video showing French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer with a small bag of white powder and a spoon during their recent visit to Kiev has sparked a major scandal and fueled rumors about the leaders' sobriety. The footage, reportedly taken after a private meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, shows Macron quickly pocketing the bag and Merz discreetly removing the spoon, while Starmer appears visibly uneasy. The incident, widely circulated on social media and dubbed the Cocaine Summit, has led to public outrage and calls for investigations from opposition parties in Europe. As of now, none of the leaders have issued official statements regarding the footage, and the scandal continues to generate diplomatic tensions amid ongoing discussions about the conflict in Ukraine and potential ceasefire proposals. In this sense, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova responded with irony on her Telegram channel, calling the three leaders dependent temporary workers who are deciding Europe's fate, and accused them of pushing Zelensky into further intrigue to prevent a settlement with Moscow and prolong the conflict. Zakharova criticized their behavior, suggesting they were so distracted by their activities that they forgot to hide the paraphernalia before the press arrived, referencing the leaders' sudden change in demeanor and attempts to conceal the objects when cameras appeared. And China and the United States have agreed to significantly reduce tariffs for 90 days after successful talks held on Sunday in the Swiss city of Geneva. After generating severe damage to world trade, the U.S. tariff policy received an important lesson as the nation agreed to cut its tariffs on Chinese products by more than 100% for 90 days. In a joint document, both nations commit to reduce tariffs U.S. from 145% to 30% on China, while Beijing will reduce them from 125% to 10% on Washington's imports. The talks happen in an atmosphere of respect as requested by the Asian nations since the beginning of the aggressive U.S. trade war. The world markets are expected reacted positively to this agreement. And also in China, Foreign Minister Wang Yi met on Monday with several Latin American foreign ministers ahead of a ministerial meeting. Wang met in the morning with the foreign ministers of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez, Uruguay, Mario Lubetkin, Peru, Elmer Schaller, and Venezuela, Ivan Hill. In this context, Wang acknowledged the friendship and practical cooperation between China and Latin American countries during talks with his counterparts. The ministerial meeting between China and the 33 members of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States is scheduled for Tuesday, where President Xi Jinping is expected to attend and deliver a speech at the opening ceremony. We now have a first break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation army committed a massacre early Monday morning after it bombed a school sheltering displaced families in Jabalia, northern Gaza. The Israeli forces shelled the Fatima bin Assad school, where several displaced families were sheltering. In this context, at least 17 people were killed, among them 5 children and 4 women. According to local sources, the victims were killed in 2 consecutive airstrikes targeting the school at dawn. This is the latest in a series of Israeli attacks on schools housing displaced Palestinians in Gaza. Let us remember that in April, at least 33 Palestinians were killed and more than 100 injured in Israeli airstrikes on 3 schools in the Tufa neighborhood of Gaza City. And in Palestine, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening as the days go by. Charities are facing a shortage of resources, making the situation more complicated for families and displaced people. In the coastal enclave, the soup kitchens are currently the main source of food for the strip's 2.3 million inhabitants, but dozens of them have closed their doors because the 10-week Israeli blockade of the territory has prevented aid groups from distributing food parcels and emptied supply markets. In this regard, daily scenes of desperation are played out in Gaza, with hundreds waving their pots and plates in the air. Children, women, and men crowd around communal cooking stations, begging for a ladful of watery bean soup.
It is so hard. There is no open border crossing. There is no flour. There is no food, no drink. When we come here to the soup kitchen, we end up waiting in line for 4 or 5 hours in the sun. It's exhausting, and we end up inhaling smoke from the cooking gas that just blinds us. In the end, we walk away with nothing. There is not enough for everybody. We scramble to get here, and in the end we get nothing. If we're lucky, we get 1 pot, enough for the little ones. We give them lunch, and that is all. It's like that every day. After the border closure, now almost 70 days ago, nothing has entered. Not even a drop of water because of the occupation's policy of starving the people here. Hunger has become the norm. It has become the usual. Everyone is feeling it. In April, the World Food Programme said its food stocks in Gaza had run out under Israel's blockade, ending a main source of sustenance for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in the Strip. As flour became scarce or unaffordable for the majority of Palestinians, many have resorted to grinding pasta, beans, or lentils to produce duff and bake bread. Each child has been begging his family to eat, so the family turned to things they were not used to before. We did not grind these things before. Not beans or lentils nor anything else. Today, in light of the starvation crisis and the lack of even lentils and beans, people have begun to accept very strange things. In the midst of these critical living conditions, the Palestinian people have had to become creative in order to feed their children. Meanwhile, the Israeli government continues its crusade of extermination in the region. We have been soaking pasta overnight, then draining it and making flour from it. Now the pasta is run out. This was 2 weeks ago. The pasta has run out. Now we have come to grind the lentils to see how the lentils will be. We do not know how things will be. What is left of this? There is nothing to grind, there is nothing to eat. The children wish for a tomato, a cucumber, and an onion. Since the revival of the conflict and tensions in the region on October 7, 2023, more than 50 Palestinian citizens have lost their lives. Only a fraction of those who will continue to die in the face of the actions of the Israeli government, which is deliberately starving thousands of children in Gaza today with total impunity.
In other news, the Palestinian resistance confirmed on Monday that they will release U.S.-Israeli serviceman Idan Alexander. The direct agreement between Hamas and Washington has generated uneasiness in Israel. U.S. Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is currently in Tel Aviv. The office for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that this action does not imply any change in the plans that Israel has for Gaza and reiterated that there was no concession to the resistance. Sources close to the negotiations confirm a rift between Washington and Tel Aviv. And this Sunday, Pope Leo XIV called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza from the St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican. He did so in his first Regina Coeli's Marian prayer ceremony that corresponds to Catholic Sunday rituals, with constant references to Pope Francis. The Supreme Pontiff of more than 1.4 billion faithful made the appeal for peace. In front of a crowded square, he rejected war in all its forms. The Pope hailed the ceasefire between India and Pakistan and prayed that the emerging peace talks between Kiev and Moscow would come to a successful conclusion and lead to a lasting agreement. In other topics, in Ireland, citizens demonstrate to express their support for Palestine and demand an end to the Israeli occupation of Arab territories. Under slogans such as Free Palestine and Stop Genocide, the participants criticized the complicity of the United States and the European Union in the financing and arming of Israel, while it continues its military offensive in the Palestinian territory. In this sense, the demonstrators invited the community to join in a boycott against Israel and raise their voices in defense of the legitimate rights of the Arab country. On the other hand, the Irish Foreign Ministry called for a review of the association agreement between the European Union and Israel, explaining that they have a responsibility to do everything possible to stop the violence, increase humanitarian aid, and immediately release all captives. We now have our second and final short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at TeleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, we'll be right back with more. Welcome back. Uruguay concluded its 2025 electoral cycle on Sunday, May 11th, with departmental and municipal elections in which over 83% of the eligible electorate voted to elect intendants, councillors, mayors, and local representatives across the country's 19 departments. Voter turnout was high, exceeding 2.7 million citizens' participation by 6 p.m. local time, according to the Electoral Court. Preliminary results show the National Party winning 13 of the 19 intendancies, solidifying its dominance at the departmental level. The Broad Front secured victories in 3 departments, including the capital, Montevideo, where Mario Vergara was elected intendant. The Colorado Party retained 1 intendancy, and the Republican coalition maintained its presence on the political map. And in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the National Agrarian Reform Fair of the Landless Movement, MST, reaches its 4th day. The event has more than 1,500 farmers representing in the largest South American city the capacity of socialism and agroecology as engines in the face of the environmental and capitalist crisis.
Texturas y otras sensaciones transitan largos corredores.
Smells, flavors, textures, and other sensations travel long corridors with more than 560 tons of fruits, vegetables, seeds, fresh and processed products from various regions of Brazil marketed by the National Agrarian Reform Fair. In times of climate collapse, biodiversity is the way forward. There is always a huge connectivity of biodiversity with the production of agricultural products for food, because each biome evolved over tens and even hundreds of millions of years. So we have to consider that and not simply remove all the biodiversity and replace it with just a single agricultural plantation. This is what science has clearly demonstrated, called regenerative agriculture, when you have an element of agricultural culture surrounded by the biome of that region.
La manutención de las florestas nativas sirve como instrumento para
The maintenance of native forests serves as a tool to balance the climate and in turn protects cultivated areas from the increasingly frequent and intense extreme weather events. The Landless Movement launched a council for the implementation of the Plant Trees, Produce Healthy Food campaign, which aims to plant 100 million native trees throughout Brazil by 2030.
de árboles nativos en todo Brasil hasta el año 2030.
Our project preserves the environment. It has the clarity that for us to exist with popular agrarian reform, it is necessary that there be mutual respect and cooperation with the environment. Agribusiness, on the other hand, is not. It is a project that concentrates land, that does not distribute income, that does not generate work, that uses agrochemicals intensively, that does not produce food, and that destroys the environment.
El precio de los alimentos fue razón de preocupación para el gobierno brasileño.
The price of food was a cause for concern for the Brazilian government, although the vast majority of the resources of the SAFRA agricultural plan are captured by agribusiness for the production of export commodities. The fair price of food without poison at the Mest Agrarian Reform Fair exposes the barriers that exist between the population and producers. If we have worked avoiding intermediaries and having a direct relationship between consumer and producer, there will surely be a better price.
En un país biodiverso, de escala continental,
In a biodiverse country on a continental scale, the Mest warns about a logic that homogenizes crops, generates hunger and rural exodus. In response, it presents socialism as a possible and abundant future when there is respect for nature and its rhythms.
naturaleza y sus ritmos. Ignacio Lemus para TeleSUR.
Meanwhile, in Cuba, hundreds of people danced this Saturday in the heart of the Verado neighborhood to the rhythm of the Cuban conga against homophobia and transphobia.
They demonstrate and dance in defense of respect for sexual diversity and the rights of the community. This is one of the most popular activities that takes place every year in Cuba in the context of the Cuban Days Against Homophobia and Transphobia. The theme we are working on this year is to support the historical anti-imperialist, anti-colonial, and anti-fascist struggles. Those are the reasons that unite us here, from the will of the most revolutionary activism in Cuba, but also of all our population. Under the slogan "Love is Law," the 18th edition of the Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia aims to make visible the daily struggles related to the defense of rights reflected in national laws, such as the Constitution and the Family Code. All this that is being done is for a common good. I am very happy that there is a lot of diversity and that everyone is supporting this beautiful event. I am happy because I come with my mom who supports me as I am. Every day I become a happy person. We are still here defending the rights and dignity of all people. Also, from our faith, we feel that we continue to be called by the need to build a Cuba that continues to be more inclusive. The celebration is not unaware of the challenges that still exist in today's Cuba. For this reason, these days emphasize the right to sexual equity, emotional sexual expression, free sexual association, and free and responsible reproductive decision-making. This day is not only dedicated to our sexual and reproductive rights and what has already been achieved with the work of the institutions, but also with solidarity with the people of Palestine. This year is a terrible situation that is being experienced in that area in Gaza, and also by the delays that are happening in the world through the different fascist governments. In Cuba, the law foresees an interesting development on the subject of the Family Code. In Italy, it is more complicated. It is very important to do the cultural work so that people can accept an inclusion of all objectivities, pluralize all subjectivities, to be, to love, to enjoy, and to live.
de manera de ser, de amar, de gozar, de vivir.
La idea es reflexionar sobre la pluralidad
The
familiar.
idea is to reflect on family plurality, to make visible the different forms of discrimination and violence, to facilitate scientific exchanges, and to raise awareness on political communication issues among this community activists.
Fabiola López, TeleSUR, La Habana. Se manifiesta.
English.net. So join us on our social medias, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.